Hi, my name is Myra Lewin. I'm the founder and director of Evolve Naturally and Hale Pule. Today we're going to make Ayurvedic pizza. And this pizza is made with, we're using fresh flour made from whole wheat and brown rice. And we've added a grain called teff, just a little bit of it to give it an oaky flavor. And then we'll be making a pesto type sauce to go on top of the pizza. That'll be made with basil and some fresh oregano. So here's the basil. And we just took it out of the garden, and then we also have some fresh oregano. And we'll put in a little bit of salt and pepper, and sunflower oil we'll be using today. You could also use olive oil or sesame oil, as long as you weren't too warm-natured, the sesame oil being heating. And then we'll also add in some goat cheese, in this case, into that pesto sauce, and then we'll be putting that on top of the pizza, along with some very lightly sauteed fresh broccoli, cucumber. You could use other things like zucchini or carrots or any other vegetables, actually. Okay, let's see what happens next. We're making Ayurvedic pizza, so we've sauteed our vegetables just very lightly, broccoli and cucumber, with some spices, and then also have already made a sauce with fresh basil, fresh oregano, salt, pepper, and sunflower oil, and some water. We also added some goat cheese to make the pesto sauce. We'll be putting just a little bit of goat cheese on the top as well. Now I'm going to make the dough to make the bottom of the pizza. So here we have flour that we ground fresh, but you can also buy flour in the store. It's important with flour that it hasn't been sitting around in the light, and the more fresh it is, the better. It's very inexpensive to buy for example, wheat berries and brown rice, and you can get a nice hand grinder, and it just takes a few minutes to grind fresh flour. The taste is much more prominent. So here we have wheat flour, brown rice flour, and a little bit of teff flour. And teff is a very small grain from Africa. Also added some salt, some mineral salt, and sunflower oil, and now I'm going to add some water. I'm going to use my hand to go ahead and mix things together. So I mix all my dry ingredients, and then I'll start adding the water, and we'll bring it to a consistency that will be a little bit sticky, but not too sticky. So it'll take just a few minutes to do that, and I like to use my hand rather than using a utensil, because it helps to put your energy and your love into what you're doing. But you can also use a utensil if you're more comfortable with that. The more you can touch the food, the more you can be in connection with it. And I find that it puts just a lovely energy into what you're preparing, and people really notice that. I added a little more water to get it all working together. Sometimes you can put spices into the dough itself, which is just another way of getting the spices into the meal, but also adding flavor. So now we've taken the dough and separated it into 3 pieces, because we're making 3 small pizzas here. And the pizzas these are going to be fairly thin, but you can make them thicker. They just have to cook just a little longer if you make them thicker. So I'm just using my hands to gently work the dough out into the shape of the pan, but it doesn't even have to go all the way to the edges of the pan, and it would be just fine. So we'll put our vegetables on it after we have cooked it for just a few minutes. So you can go ahead and prepare the dough and put the vegetables on and cook it all at once. But the dough, the pizza itself, the crust, can be a little bit mushy that way. Some people like it that way. But we'll cook it for just a few minutes at about 425. I did put a little sunflower oil onto the pans before putting the pizza dough into it. So we're just taking now the pizza crust and putting it in the oven for just a few minutes at 425. And these are thin pizza crusts, so it'll probably be less than 5 minutes, probably 3 to 4 minutes. Just to get them cooked just a little bit, then we'll take them out, put the vegetables and the pesto on, and put them back in the oven for a few minutes. Okay? So we've cooked the pizza crust just a little bit at 425, so that it's just not cooked totally. And now I'll add the pesto sauce to the top. And there is oil in the pesto sauce, and we'll put a few mung sprouts along with our broccoli and cucumber on top, and sprinkle just a tiny bit of cheese and put it back in the oven at 375 for less than 10 minutes. Now, this is a convection oven, so it cooks a little bit faster. Your oven might take just a little longer. Okay, so we have a little bit of chunkiness in the mac nuts. And I can hear my puppy dog in the background because he knows that food is happening. So you can make smiley faces with the pesto first before you spread it out, which is always kind of fun. After you make it a few times, then you'll get to know your oven and how long it can cook. You can also make the crust much thicker than this if you prefer that. And I think, as I mentioned previously, you can put spices and you could actually grind up nuts in the dough as well, which is kind of an interesting thing. Now I'm putting the very lightly sauteed vegetables on top of the pizza. We'll spread it out as evenly as possible. The reason we use vegetables, one augmenting vegetable, the cucumber, and one extractive vegetable, which would be the broccoli. And we do that to bring balance to the meal. And you might have noticed that we didn't put any garlic or onions on here. And don't use garlic and onions, primarily because they're irritants in the digestive tract. And they also cause a lot of activity in the mind. So if you're desiring a calmer mind, then either to eliminate it or minimize it. And it also, those things both have such strong tastes that they really overpower everything else. And if you eat them a lot, people who eat it really, really like it. And there's a reason. Because it does have a tendency to take you out of balance. And that imbalance causes, again, it causes something called rajas, or a little more activity and disturbance in your being. So by removing them from the diet, it actually reduces that activity in the mind. Many people who eat a lot of garlic and onions have some digestive problems, or they have skin problems that are caused by eating too much garlic and too many onions that will have a tendency to increase the pitta dosha, which will then result in skin problems, acne for one. I know many people understand that garlic is a blood purifier, for example. And in a very small amount on an occasion, then it can be effective in that way. But in large amounts or on a regular basis, it really has the opposite effect. What happens is once you take it away from your eating, this incredible thing happens. At first, nothing else tastes like anything. And then your taste buds come back and they're not so numbed by the garlic and onions. And then you start tasting all kinds of other things. And then it's hard to imagine how you could have eaten the garlic and onions because they're so strong and so overpowering. So there are many, many other choices of spices that can be used that help to bring balance. Nice moisture in the vegetables that we're putting on. The cucumber is just very, very, very lightly cooked. And cucumber, is cooling. And since we're still in a warm place here on Kauai in October, and it's still warm, so it's appropriate for us. We're going to throw just a few of these just freshly grown mung sprouts, just a few on top. Just for some, add that little bit of the sprout effect, which is a very light etheric effect. So if you have a lot of vata dosha or too much vata dosha, then you wouldn't want to have too many sprouts, because then it will cause more lightness. It might cause you to be a little bit spacey and have difficulty focusing. We added a little bit of goat cheese. This is a chèvre, a fresh chèvre. We don't use any aged cheeses, so a fresh paneer would be nice. You could use a fresh mozzarella. And then a fresh cottage cheese or a fresh ricotta is also very nice, but you want to stay away from the ricotta that has a lot of vinegar in it and that. So we'll just stick it in the oven for just a few minutes, because our oven is still very warm from having just lightly cooked the crust. Well, here we are. We cooked them for 5 minutes. The oven was already quite warm at 375, and the cheese is just a little soft on top. So you don't want to cook it too long, because you'll dry it out. We're also having avocado with our pizza tonight. So I hope this gives you an idea of how simple it can be to make a really lovely pizza and not have to have vegetables and chemicals and things in it that you don't really need. So after eating this pizza, you'll feel relaxed and energized. Okay, enjoy.